After a day of meetings with police agencies and automotive industry experts across the country, the second annual Auto Theft Summit has wrapped up in Mississauga, Ontario. The Peel region in particular has seen a massive surge in auto theft in recent years, and officials say it is now the highest in the country. Michelle Gassoub has been following today's developments, and she joins us now with more. So Michelle, what are the main takeaways from today's summit?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that this is an issue that is just getting worse and worse. Peel dubbed the auto theft capital of Canada, and that is really saying something when Toronto has a car stolen every 40 minutes. That's data from last year. So, they were talking about why this has escalated, and one of the reasons they mentioned is that the average cost of a car in Canada has really skyrocketed since the pandemic. The average car worth around $60,000 now. But one of the things they're really concerned about and that they really highlighted was that these car thefts, it's not just someone breaking into a car necessarily and stealing it in the dead of night, but they're also getting more violent and more extreme.
It's gotten to the point where we're starting to address the problems. I think our partners are more acutely aware of the challenges, and yet it's as critical as it's been in many cases. As one of the chiefs said, when it gets to the point where there's carjackings at gunpoint, and when it gets to the point where people are knocking down your doors at 3 a.m., it's no longer the kids just taking a car for a joyride.
They talked about how this isn't just a problem within Canada with cars being shipped between provinces, but now 80% of cars that end up stolen end up in countries in Europe and Africa and in some countries in the Middle East. Also that while auto manufacturers and new vehicles are upping their security, it's essentially an arms race between them and then the people that are stealing these cars.
Michelle, what are some of the things that they're calling for to curb the thefts?
Well, interestingly, they're calling for a national strategy to address this. They say that they're not going to arrest their way out of the problem by deploying more police, but also that the auto industry can't just keep adding more security features in the hopes of preventing more thefts from happening. So they're saying a national priority is really needed. One of the key issues is that, for example, if a car is stolen in Peel, it can very quickly be moved to Montreal. What's in Montreal? The port. And they really talked about how the port of Montreal is a serious area where stolen cars are being shipped out, and they want the same standards for exports as that Canada has for imports.
I equate this auto theft crisis to a giant bucket of water, and there's a hole, and water is leaking out. That's the port of Montreal right now. We need to make sure we have scanning capacity at our hubs and our ports to make sure that stolen goods can't be so easily taken out of our country. The same rigorous approach we have for imports, we must have for exports.
And of course, discussing if cars do make it out of the port of Montreal, for example, and are shipped into another country, the issue that it becomes to be repatriating Canadian cars back to Canada. They also talked about the need to raise awareness among Canadians and really emphasize to people that this isn't just an issue of stolen property. As these crimes escalate, it's actually a safety issue for many communities.
Michelle, thank you for this. Michelle Gassoub for us.